All right, I think we're live. Yeah, all right, let's do the thing. Happy Tuesday, everyone. I've made the decision I'm going to try and stream on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Hopefully that fits with your schedule. It'll be about this time. You can let me know if this time works for you or if there's another better time. I'm interested to see. I think this is mid-morning for a lot of people in the States. So yeah, whoever shows up turns out, I guess, is really secondary to just my ability to make these videos. As those of you who have been following along know, part of this is an ongoing exercise for myself, first and foremost. There's a lot that has happened in my recent past that I feel angry about, and the creating of art and even more than that, the showing up in the world as myself has been absolutely the most important thing that I've done in the last couple years. And so I don't see this so much as me like forcing art on you as much as it's sharing an experience of creating something and using it as an analogy for pretty much everything we do. So the feeling that I have getting in front of this camera right now and just showing up as myself, putting it out there, is the same basic feeling that I have when I make a piece of art, or especially if I'm doing that in a live setting, owning my limitations, owning my abilities, and not hiding because it's not perfect yet or it's not ready yet. I think that it is tempting to keep these big ideas, I'll speak for myself, in my head, these big ideas of who I could be or what I could do. And for me, it has always been a kick in the teeth when I try to act those out, and then that big, beautiful idea meets with reality, it meets with criticism, it meets with inner criticism. And so what happens? Everything shrinks back down, and I find myself being small and making other people happy and holding back the biggest parts of myself because I feel like they're too much for people or annoying. And it's funny because most people, I think, grow a YouTube channel from the ground up around a topic that everyone's interested in. This YouTube channel has a lot of people that came to it for a very specific reason. And the trick for me is, can I find those that actually resonate, not just with what I've been saying about crypto, but with what I want to share about life and what I think our true purpose is here on planet Earth in this time that we have, and unlocking that. Because for those of us that came to crypto looking for an escape or for validation or to just feel smart and to make money and to make friends, all of those things, there's beautiful aspects of it. There's also the same limiting factors, and even more so, I think, in crypto in general, and even I would say in money, in work, in affairs of the family, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There are a lot of systems and games set up that we have to play according to the rules, or else it's going to chew us up and spit us out. So what I'm going to do today, this is all off the cuff, this is all unscripted, but I want to start sharing with you this deep passion that I have for creating, for again, showing up in the world as who we are and not being limited and put into these little boxes. And when that starts to happen, for me, it has expanded my horizons. It has connected me with people that are in the topics and areas that I'm most interested in. And it has flipped the narrative. It's flipped the script from holding everything back and just wishing and hoping and praying for things to change or go differently, and being an active, outgoing member of my surroundings, and getting a little bit more selfish and being willing to show up, not perfect, but just exactly how I am. And I think we've got some comments here. Cool. Yeah. So I love that you guys are here. Follow along. I want to share with you a couple things that for me were huge unblockers. And I can only speak from my experience, but I know that for most of my life, I had this desperate desire to be seen as worthy and attractive and competent. And that's the energy that I would put up. This like force field of don't fuck with me, alpha power, like kind of these rigid borders. And when I would start to get a little revealed or out of my comfort zone, the energy would just turn into almost like ADD, frantic energy that just was wild and spinning. And so it was a really hard way to go about life. I think that there's so many relationships that I deeply desired more out of, but I was not able to just be like, yep, I'm here, I'm imperfect. I've always been playing a role. I even do that now. I mean, these are the things that I'm working on, but when people come into the studio, I will often, arrange things to make them look more interesting. I call it dressing the set. And I don't know where that came from in me, but it's something that I'm more and more trying to break because I see how much it limits me. And even showing up on YouTube, in the past, I would record video after video after video, editing and deleting and retrying because I was so hung up on what those results would be. How many comments, how many views, and not in the way that you might think. Like it seems like, oh, everybody's worried about like comments and views, and I guess that's kind of my point. But the ability to just like, you know what, this is what I have to say now, and I'm just gonna say it, I'm gonna move on, and I'm not gonna look back. That's kind of the energy that I'm talking about, because it frees us up to be who we actually are and to speak for our desires, to have the hard conversations, and that just like shakes everything to a place where now there's a runway that is my runway that I am walking down, and I'm not wasting all my energy worried about appearances or worried about people's perceptions, etc. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you a little activity, a little exercise that was really helpful for me. And I've drawn my whole life. I've always been an artist of one form or another. It's only been recently that I've really taken on that label as something deep and meaningful to me. I think an artist is just someone who creates out of a will or an intention or a mission or a passion out of whatever it is that's around you. It doesn't have to be painting. It doesn't have to be writing or sculpture or any of the things that we normally think of as art. I think art is artifice. Art is, again, rearranging our lives to be more what we want to share, what we want to do. So I have this pen here. I found it in my drawer. I have no idea what kind of mark is going to come out of this pen. It's this big brush pen. And so it's great because for me, it's like getting in front of a camera. No idea what I'm going to say, no idea how I'm going to feel, what I'm going to do. So if you want to follow along, and if not, you can just watch, but this is a really cool exercise that for me has been a huge unblocker, both in my art and in my willingness to show up in my life and get messy and make mistakes and just be the person that I am, and yada, yada, yada. Okay, so I'm going to switch my view here. And I've got this little, for those of you on YouTube, there's a little picture-in-picture. So I'm going to take this pen, and I'm just going to bring it to this paper. And my intention here is to create something. But rather than doing a pencil sketch or thinking about what I want this to be or getting hung up on the outcome, I'm just going to see what mark this pen makes. I have no idea. Oh, and it's big and dark and beautiful. Zoom in a little bit. So, okay, this little exercise, this little activity, it's called automatic drawing. And this was a huge unlocker for me because the idea here is that for the next couple minutes, I'm just going to let this pen do what it does. Just let this pen be a pen. And I'm going to be here with it with curiosity almost like a child, just to see what it does. And if there's any rule here, which there isn't, but if there's any kind of guideline or concept, it's that if I find myself doing the same pattern over and over and over and over, I'll switch it up. And again, these are all analogies for life. So if I'm going day after day after day doing the same things, feeling the same ways, switch it up. Okay, so I'm just gonna start. I'm just gonna start using this brush, and man, this puts out a lot of black ink. And so what I'm doing is I'm just kind of being with it, and I'm getting curious. You know, now I'm going a little bit smaller with the strokes. I don't really have an intention here. I find myself doing a lot of these kind of spirals, but those are kind of fun. So, okay, that's pretty cool. The little point of the pen can make these really fine marks. And then if I tip it, I can get this really dark, almost like I'm making a big shadow down here. But I'm not making anything in particular. I'm just seeing what kind of comes out of my subconscious if I just leave it alone. And I don't start scolding it like, hey, that's not a straight line. Hey, that's not a good, I don't know, what do you draw normally? Ponies, kitties? I have no idea. So I'm just keeping the pen moving. And I'm staying with it long enough for it to turn into something. And this is kind of my next little analogy I found a lot with the art that I've been making, is that there's always, always, always a phase in a drawing or a painting where I hate it. And I feel it looks like a middle schooler could have done it. And I hear that inner critic kind of start chirping off at me, and it makes me want to stop. And it makes me super embarrassed if anyone's coming by. And I do this a lot. I do a lot of live painting where I'm out in town or at an art night and people are walking by, and I might be at that stage of a painting that just looks like crap. And the trick is to just stay with it long enough for it to resolve. And you know, even with the YouTube stream, it's an interesting exercise because I don't really have control like a normal video of the intro or the outro. Anyone who tunes in right at the second is just catching up with me in real time, and they'll either be bored out of their gourd or maybe they'll be interested, but I don't have control over that. All I can do is show up and let my pen keep being a pen, let myself keep being myself, and there's just this kind of trust that starts to develop that by just being present, being attentive, being patient, letting that critic, if that critic's gonna start chirping, let it chirp. It's very much that meditation. It comes out so many ways in my life. You know, everything from how I make paintings to how I have conversations to my golf swing, or I played hockey over the weekend and maybe I missed a pass or we got scored on or whatever. It's that same sort of, oh, this apparently is happening now. And the trick, I guess, is that how much energy is wasted when we're hung up on, like, let's say I just couldn't get over this mark right here. That this to me is just like, that was my ultimate failure. And I just, if it weren't for that, if it weren't for this, and I'll give it even a more concrete analogy, is I did this painting, and now this is me kind of showing off, but it's kind of fun because I want you to see some of my like big pretty art. So I did this recently, and I live streamed a lot of it, and there was one moment for anyone who tuned into the live stream. At that moment, they heard me say, "Oh fuck." And I had just made in this whole, multi-day, highly intentional painting, I made a mistake that was just brutal. It was a gut punch, and I bet, and I've even asked a few people, like, can you see the mistake? And no, I mean, what's a mistake? What's a mistake when you're looking at a piece of art, especially something like this? So my point is that the things that we, or I, often, fixate on are that it's almost a choice, and this exercise, this thing that I'm doing here, this automatic drawing, is a great way to just get in that kind of flow state and just say, oh, I'm making this kind of line now. Oh, I'm making, it doesn't matter if this is a circle or not. I actually kind of like just being messy. Like maybe I really like this part, but oh no, you know, I can go right in there and I can make these big, you know, what could be called a mistake line. You know, I covered a part that I really liked, or whatever that might be. And so the thing that just strikes me as I've done this, and I brought this more into my art and more into my life, is that there's a trust that begins to develop where I'm no longer Ryan with my hopes and dreams and intentions. I'm just this body. I'm just this mind. I'm just this mouth. I'm just the tip of this pen. And I'm doing something. And when I trust it and when I let it go and just let it be, it always surprises and delights me. And when I come back to these drawings, and this is just like a doodle, you know, this is not something that you necessarily, I mean, maybe you'd hang it on your wall, but that's not the point. You know, this is not for anyone. This is just an experience of what it's like to be creative in the way that maybe a little child gets to do, and we get to encourage them. And, you know, any mark on the page is like, oh, it's so great. And at a certain point in time, you know, if the horse has got extra legs, it's, you know, Johnny, Sarah, a horse only has 4 legs, not 12. And like, oh, you know, that's that portrait. The eye is a little crooked. Like, we start to really get critical. And I'm an art teacher now. I teach at a high school, and I have these amazing students. And it's so funny to see this same kind of mindset, even at a young age, you know, teenagers that maybe they were really gifted and talented artists growing up, and so now they've kind of learned, oh, when I make a certain type of image, I get praised for it, and then they get stuck to these same tricks that they do over and over and over again. And I mean, I can resonate with this because I do a very similar thing. Like, I know I'm good at this. I know I'm good at turning this crank, and I know if I turn this crank, I'll get fed, or I'll get respected, or I don't know. But it becomes a trap. And so this whole kind of activity here of just filling a page is starting to step out of that trap and saying, you know what? I can show up and I can be messy, and it doesn't fucking matter. And I'm using expletives, I'm cursing, because that's like the level of emphaticism that I have with this. Is like, Ryan, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what I say on this podcast channel, on this YouTube. It doesn't matter what my next painting is. It doesn't matter what my next conversation is. It's the critic, the criticalness, wherever it came from, whether it's a parent's voice or a partner's voice or a teacher's voice, that critic in our head and in our heart that is kind of keeping us on the safe road is useful. Like, there's definitely maybe an evolutionary advantage to some of these games, but at a certain point, and maybe this is just a midlife thing for me, like I'm now 42, and I look back at the first part of my life and I see how much energy I wasted keeping people happy that I don't even see anymore. Or, I mean, some of this starts to sound kind of cliche and trite, but okay. What I'm gonna do next is this little exercise, this automatic drawing. I'm gonna just take it one step further, and I'm gonna do something very similar, but I'm going to paint. And so I want to share with you how I've been making art, how I've been painting, because it is very much this welcoming practice. And I use the word welcoming intentionally because Leah Pearlman and Sharon Kavanaugh and Vince Wendling, this group of friends that we started a business together, and the central focus is this concept of welcoming. So you can check out thewelcomingway.com or just welcomingway.com and hear a lot of Leah's recordings. But I feel like what I'm doing lately is I'm taking this philosophy of allowing things to be what they are, and to just slow down that judgment step. And it's almost like going from being this character up on stage who thinks that the play is real to being in the audience. I'm still up on stage, but I'm also in the audience, and I can just kind of see it and be like, wow, I'm really feeling some big feelings. That's super interesting. I wonder what that's connected to. I wonder what's the deeper thing, and is there actually a payoff? Are these situations that are making me super frustrated actually something that I keep creating for myself so I get to feel anything at all? Because what is life without energy, without excitement, without fear, without vitality? So I'm going to take this one step further, and I'm going to bring over my little artist block. Watercolor paper. I've really been enjoying watercolor because it is so fluid and it has a mind of its own. It's elemental. I think with acrylic paints and oil paints, a lot of it is like, I find it sort of like, here's my analogy, a guitar. So if you pick up a guitar and it's tuned to a standard tuning and you try and play tabs of your favorite artist, you're going to know really quickly whether you're playing it well or not, because you have something to compare it to. You're imitating. I think for me personally, when I get into the watercolor, it's more like just making sounds. It's like taking a guitar. If you've ever done this, you can tune it to an open tuning, like open D, and when you strum it with no fingers on the fretboard, when you just strum it, it's in a D chord and it just sounds pretty. And then you can start just noodling around, but you're not trying to play Pearl Jam or I don't know, something that you're imitating. And so that's what we're going to do here. Again, this whole analogy is just in life, the energy that we spend worrying about the outcome can end up being the very thing that keeps us from welcoming and accepting all of the little gifts, all of the little surprises, all of the little moments to be curious, and is super limiting. So I'm going to go back to my overhead camera here. It's my little picture-in-picture. And so now I just have, this is a 12 by 16 watercolor block. And again, I get to experience this feeling that I know so well now. It's a little bit of fear. There's some like energy that is anticipatory. Like I want to do a good painting. I want this live stream to be interesting. I want everyone to love me. I want blah, 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 blah. This whole imagined future that cascades out from this one sheet of blank paper. Well, I'm going to, in the same way that I just did that automatic drawing, I'm going to try and break that cycle by, again, just getting curious and seeing what happens. I'm going to grab these bigger brushes, and as best as I can, I'm going to cultivate that same mindset that I just had with the drawing. Now, black and white ink, this is the one that we just did. This is, just an exercise in letting go, letting the pen be a pen, seeing maybe some forms, but not getting too stuck to any particular outcome. And so that's what we're going to do here. The first choice that I'm going to make is more going to be about maybe how I'm feeling, what I want to express, like the colors that I want to show up. And I've got a little palette here off to the side. I think I can turn my camera just a little bit. No, maybe not. Yeah, I'll just kind of swing this over so you can see what I got going. So I like to have my palette set up. Maybe I can't get this on camera. That's all right. It's almost as messy as the canvas. I just have colors arranged in a bit of a color wheel, and that allows me to just grab big, thick swatches of them and put them on the paper and see what happens. And yeah, all right, so here we go. Welcoming the unknown, welcoming the desire to impress and please and make something beautiful, but also accepting that this is just going to be what it is. And at the end of the day, it's a moment in time. It's a sketch. Even the best painters, the best paintings, they come out of a repetition. There's a beautiful saying that says, "I'll take care of the quantity and let quality take care of itself." And so I look at that not only in creating a piece of art like this one, but also just in the cycles of my life. An example I'll give you is that I often go out with this group and we go roller skating, and there's all of these amazing people, and I want so badly to have connections and maybe even some romance. All these desires going in, and every night I end up just being myself and getting so frustrated with maybe not being brave enough to go up and talk to someone, or saying something like really goofy and ending the conversation, or yada yada yada. But each of those nights is just a sketch. It's just something that happened, something I learned, and I'm getting better at moving on. What's the next moment? What's the next person? What's the next conversation? If there's something I want to change, I can adjust it. But this is different for me, from just the reliving of the past, kicking the crap out of myself. You know, why can't I be the person that I want to be? So here's what we're doing. First, I'm just going to wet a part of this paper. I just feel like that might be interesting, to just not have a completely dry surface everywhere. So I'm just going to add a little bit of water to this page. And I'm approaching this with the same spirit as the automatic drawing. I'm not worried about really anything. It's more just like, I am going to move this brush across the page and see what it's going to do. And being surprised and delighted by what it does. I'm in a way a co-collaborator, but my intention is to just be with this unfolding, not to get hung up on outcomes. And so, you know, I'm seeing things happening that could be called mistakes, right? Like, I'm picking up this pigment, I'm picking it up really thick, and there's places where I've got bubbles, I've got chunks, I've got all kinds of artifacts. And rather than trying to correct or fix, I'm just going to kind of move with what seems to be happening here. So now I picked up an orange pigment, and I'm just going to kind of let these margins run into each other. And a lot of times when I do a painting like this, I'll just get comfortable. Like, I will get comfortable in myself. Sometimes I dress in what I'll just call like skimpy or comfortable clothing, and I'll put on music that is very energetic or almost dancey, and I'll just get in this flow of doing something, being with it, watching it, and then based on whatever's there, just making another choice, and then just committing, and then just seeing what happens. And so now I'm kind of getting into this next layer, this turquoise, and I'm noticing that with these other layers, I'm picking up some of the pigment that was already there, and so we're getting kind of like a muddying, and I think that's interesting. I'm going to zoom out a little bit so you can see the full jam. And so I'm gonna just keep this process going. I'm gonna move down to a smaller brush, and I'm just gonna keep talking from the dome. For those of you who are just joining, I am in the midst of an experiment here. I feel pretty strongly that my excitement, my interest, my vitality lives in this type of art, this way of living artfully, that is all about letting things be, letting things flow, and flowing along with them. And part of that is showing up here on a YouTube channel that was all crypto related, where we were hanging out, we were talking about our investments, we were talking about value, we were talking about maybe manipulation, or the powers that be that are don't have our best interest in mind, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And what I'm trying to just experiment with, like one of these paintings, like this live stream is in a way one of the strokes of this painting. And in the same way that I'm talking about, the magic is not getting hung up on the outcome. So with this stream, I'm expecting I will probably lose another 100 or so subscribers. Every time I post a video that's not purely crypto related, I see the subscriber count drop, and that's an interesting experience. It's an interesting thing to feel, because a lot of common sense would tell you that if you're in the business of YouTube, the goal is to grow the audience. The goal is to understand what they want and to give them what they want and to play with the algorithms to get prioritized. So the fact that I kind of hit this first knockout painting that was about crypto, and also I think just about, at that time, a lot of the struggles and feelings and things that I was having personally coming out of COVID, and breaking up with my business and reinventing my marriage. And, you know, there was kind of a human thread there, but the content was very specific. And so what I'm doing here is I'm testing this concept that if I continue to show up in the same way that I'm making this painting, just show up and give my full attention and care and sincerity to that, to this, to you, that, yeah, there might be many people that aren't interested, and the ones that get it, the ones that resonate, are people that I couldn't have found any other way. So why would I limit those connections because I'm too afraid of upsetting the people who are already a foot out the door? You see what I'm saying? And I see this in my own life and in the people around me a lot, where our energy gets used and also just like in this nasty loop of recycling, of thinking through all of the relationships and the people and the responsibilities. And that I've experienced this now because I'm an artist and I make art, that when I'm stuck in those loops of energy, my creativity doesn't flow. And so it takes this almost like, not quite forceful, but sincerely resolute willingness to stand your ground and know this is what excites me. This is who I am. This is what I want to talk about. This is what I have feelings around. This is what I want out of my time here on planet Earth. And to let the haters hate, let the ignorers ignore, and to just keep bringing our art to the paper, our words to our world. And that artfulness, that artful living, I think, then unfolds. It's a clearing, it's a welcoming. And so, I mean, I can see right now I've got 11 concurrent viewers, which is awesome. I love that you're here. And that to me is more important than putting out a crypto video that everybody likes, that gets shared around, and it's this big pile of praise that actually keeps me feeling confined. And that might sound, I don't know how that sounds if you haven't had that experience. But that's the key right now for me in living the life I want, in accepting the good things that are already coming to me, by not creating an artificial image of myself that's based on other people's opinions, or even where money comes from most easily. Okay, I'm gonna flip this back around. We're gonna just keep going. We're gonna keep making this little painting, And so I've done a layer, and the way that I like to do this is I like to just have the patience to see where things land. There's this impulse, I think, in art and in life to want to jump ahead, to want to know if it's going to be good, to want to control or um, get into the particulars. And with something like this, and especially with watercolor, time is an element. There is a time component. And I was talking earlier about the ugly stage of a drawing or a painting. There's an ugly stage of a life. There's an ugly stage of a day. There are cycles of ups and downs and excitement and depression. And this has taught me that, yeah, I can keep layering on layers. I can keep going towards some intention. But what will happen is it will start to get muddy. And places where there might have been a pretty crisp edge or something that just happened, if it's not given space to breathe and to dry and to kind of set up on its own, then it's almost like when you make a campfire and you poke it too much, you can put the fire out because the fire will naturally optimize. It will, whatever arrangement the logs are in, it will start burning in an optimized way, and then the skilled fire tender starts to watch for when it's starting to die out and need more fuel, and maybe you roll something over. But the temptation is to just sit there and poke it and poke it and poke it and poke it and poke it. And if that's how we're living our lives, nothing ever gets a chance to settle and to be. So this is still drying, but there's areas that I can start seeing that are ready for maybe another thought, another layer. And so in the same practice, I'm going to move down to a smaller brush, and I'm going to repeat the same process, but now just at one more layer of granularity. And this is another kind of art life hack, I think, that starting with the broad strokes and covering a lot of ground, kind of blanket statements, blanket thoughts, what's the biggest belief or value? Let that kind of be the underpainting. And then once that's established, can go smaller and smaller details. And that's a way of drawing. That's a way, I think, also of putting intentions into the world. So I'm gonna do the same thing I just did. We have this kind of layer of purple. I'm gonna come back in with purple and a smaller brush. I'm gonna go a little bit darker this time because now I can kind of see what's here. I can kind of see what's emerging. And I'm going to, again, just kind of playfully discover what this is becoming. And if there's any principle, it's that I'm just kind of going with the flow. I'm being attentive enough that I can see what's happening. I'm also not fighting it. I'm not pushing for any particular outcome or even a subject. I'm just tapping into my maybe intuition of how much paint to use or what might be interesting. And I do start to see things in terms of value. I do start to see just where are the darks, where are the lights, and just that one kind of meditation alone can start to create just maybe an artful reading of what we're looking at. And again, this is just such an interesting process, both the painting and the live streaming, because as I go, the painting is changing, the viewers are changing. No one knows what I said if they just joined. No one knows like the lead up and the intro and why is Ryan here painting. instead of talking about crypto. They didn't get to hear that. And I have to just be okay with letting my choices, my actions stand for themselves, and to just continue this process. Because if I get too in my head about, just seeing there was a surge of people up front, and then there was, a steady drop off, and I might start criticizing my own work of, man, people aren't digging it. Maybe the painting wasn't good. Maybe the things I was saying just didn't relate. But in the same way, there's that kind of curiosity, I guess. And there's that kind of more important, just the resolution to keep going and to just see what happens. What happens if I just continue on this path? Because it feels to me like where my energy is highest. And the team that I work with the Welcoming Way, we have this kind of principle that we follow our highest excitement. And if we find ourselves doing something that is not in our highest excitement, anyone at any time can raise that flag, raise that alarm, and say why. Why is this actually needed? Is this serving our mission if it's not coming out of a place of sincere excitement? And that's really different from ways that I've run past companies where it's like, no, this is our goal, this is what we must do, and everyone needs to just make it work. Whether you love it or hate it, like there will be an end, you just go, go, go. And I'm really starting to question that, because I think this painting will take on a form if I'm feeling feelings of resentment or frustration, and maybe that's interesting. But for the art that I want to create, it's coming from a place of highest excitement. And so this is my little analogy, is that, if I start worrying about the reception before it's even done, about both this live stream and about this painting, I'm in a way working against myself. And that to me just seems crazy. So I'm kind of going into, let's get some yellow up in here just to kind of balance out this composition. And so the last little thing that I haven't mentioned yet is that with this style of painting, the thing that I really enjoyed about it is that there's this phase up front that is kind of messy and is very much like the automatic drawing we did to start, where we're just letting it happen, and we're just staying with it, staying curious, not being hung up on any one part or shape. So with this, that's kind of the phase that we're in. It's just like the messy phase. And then there's another part coming up here that's probably, I don't know if it's my favorite. It's very satisfying. It's very meditative, where I will next go in with very dark ink and a little brush and start seeing what my left brain sees in here. So right now it's just paint kind of running together. It kind of might have the feeling of a landscape or just an abstract, but with the next step, it's this, I guess, more of a reflection. So we did the thing, we made the mess, we welcomed what happened, and then go in and tell a story or start calling pieces out. And those two elements together, again, all of this is an analogy for both art and life. I see this in the way I live a day now, that the day can be messy, and the more messy I let it be, the more I let myself flow, let my own expression come out without worrying about what other people think or the reception that it gets. And then in the next phase, the next day, or for me, it's a practice of just, I do morning pages. It's a part of the Artist's Way, Julia Cameron's book. But every morning I wake up and I write 3 pages. And sometimes those pages are totally boring. And sometimes I'm dealing with the biggest, hairiest parts of my life. That sounded a little interesting. I do that after the pages. No, okay. So this willingness to get on YouTube and potentially make a fool of yourself, uh, and to watch your subscribers leave because you're being yourself, and to show up at a blank piece of paper and just start putting ink on it, and being willing to ride that, to ride the emotions, to allow everything to shake its way loose, then that moment comes where you can look at it with clarity, and with the more black and white lines start to put together a new story. And all of this has been exactly what elevated me from real depression, guys, like really down and out, really hurting, from that to healing, to getting selfish, to claiming space, to being just as big and obnoxious and childish as I can be. And again, this way of making art to me is a way to communicate and express and share and teach and propagate a real letting go. A letting go of expectation, a letting go of the internal critic, and truly being with what is. And that is so satisfying. There's so much energy in it. There's so much room for luck and serendipity. And I do believe, this is also an artist's way thing, but I do believe that the great creator or God or the universe, whatever you want to call that driving energy behind everything, that it naturally and deeply loves expression, creative expression, your creative expression, and that to align your actions and your creativity with that kind of a trust. I was gonna say faith. I have something to say about that in a second, but just this trust. I drew a card from this oracle deck at my friend Vince's house. This was like about a year and a half ago, and it just had this person falling through space, like jumping out of a building, falling through a cloudless sky, and it was just called trust. And that was the same day I pulled that card, and then I kind of broke up with my consulting clients. I went into this kind of free fall where I was unwilling to let my energy just go out without it being aligned with my highest excitement, my creative passion. And that's where I think that concept of the great creator and he, they, what, she, it's in our corner. It deeply desires for us to be an extension of its own creative flow. I believe that because I've been experiencing it. When I sit down and I start painting and I start making art, if I'm in my own way with the critique and the judgment, it's a very different experience. Not even an outcome, but just a different experience than when I just trust that I might not be saying the right thing for everyone, but I'm saying the right thing for me because it's what I'm saying. And the marks on this page, as varied as they are, they were just the marks that appeared on this page. And my job, if there is one, is not to condemn one line over another or to get too tangled up in how I'm living my life or what I'm doing, but to just be with this process. Yeah, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to grab this dark ink. This is just carbon black, high flow acrylic. I have been using this just because I have a bunch of it. I think I might end up going back to the speedball black ink just because it doesn't end up as shiny. And I just kind of, I like the flat look, but this is what we got today, so this is what we're going to use. the tip off here. And so, yeah, this is now, I guess, the storytelling component. So all of this just arrived on this page, and for those of you who have been, watching this whole time, it was very much a welcoming. Just, what's happening? How can I get curious about every little action that I'm doing, and just trusting that it's coming from some source that is itself artistic. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this little brush, and I'm just going to dive in, and I'm going to start kind of calling out the things that I see. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit because this part I think is really satisfying in a way. Let's see. So, yeah, I start to see a lot of times just these sort of kind of organic floral shapes, or kind of a landscape. But in the same way that I started off with that automatic drawing, I'm just tapping into my subconscious. I'm just trusting that whatever marks are coming out are just coming out of some intention or some knowing that I can just get in the habit of trusting. And I don't have any subject here. I'm not like painting a specific concept. I might look for things like what's on top of what's overlapping in what area. And I might just start kind of calling those things out as if they're laying on top of each other. But I'm just kind of going with the flow that's already here. But the black and white, it is that sort of logical thinking division, which I think we do anyway. So might as well welcome that too. That, after this live stream is done, there's going to be a whole period where I'm going to feel feelings about it. I'm going to reflect. I'm going to look at, data and analytics, and just continue to check in with this faith that I have, this trust that I have, that the best thing that I can do is to keep showing up as myself, even if a lot of people don't like that, because that's where the flow is. That's the energy. And maybe we won't always be, doing little painting tutorials and soapboxing. It could be different every day, and I'm never going to know unless I'm willing to just get through this ugly phase, get through this mess. Let the people unsubscribe. Let the chips fall where they may, and then there'll be a new arrangement and new possibilities. And as long as I'm coming out of my highest excitement, then I'm ready to receive it, and I'm excited to receive it. And the whole analogy here with this painting is not so much that I want to teach you all to be artists just exactly like me. It's that this practice, these ideas that I'm sharing, are the very ones that have helped me step back into my life as a participant and not a victim, and to start questioning and rewiring my own programming that came from years and years of, rejection and trying so hard to be liked and loved and have friends and be attractive and have all the adventures with people, the connection. And as I said before, like, one of the things that I've just recognized in myself, I don't know if this is for everybody, but this is me in a way, is that I've been so concerned with what people, or how people respond to me, that I've limited actually sharing the person that I am, and I never end up getting what I want anyway, because what I want at the end of the day is not just a bunch of superficial conversations or one-liners or whatever. What I really want is a whole spectrum of relationships, and intimate relationships, physical, sexual, spiritual. That's what I crave, and that the fear is the very thing that has held me back from saying, you know what? Not everyone is going to like me. Not everyone is going to want to tune in to this idiot guy who, had some call in the crypto market in 2021 and then like follow him on this weird adventure into yoga and painting and whatever else. Like, I can't tell you how many moments of my energy I've wasted worrying about that opportunity, right? Like a lot of the times I think the things that show up for us as opportunities are almost like little tests, little challenges. And it's not, can you maximize this opportunity? It's, can you say no to the ones that aren't for you, that aren't in your blueprint, as it were. I know a lot of people who end up working jobs for years and years and years because there was just some moment early on where they said yes to something. And then I have this saying, I think it's true of animals and dogs, and I think this came originally from seeing my cat. It's like, my cat doesn't have a social security number, doesn't even know its name really, but it always comes home. Like, why is it coming home? Is it love? I think there's definitely like good feelings. There's like a connection. There's, we share oxytocin when we hang out and, but like I think that the cat keeps coming back because it's fed. So people, like animals, stay where they're fed. And then for me, it becomes really important to ask, where is that food coming from? Who's offering it, and what's the catch? And a lot of times, in my experience, the safety becomes the trap itself. The fear of risking the unknown, kind of that lack of trust in the universe having our back, or God having our back, or whatever term you ascribe. I think there's a passage in the Bible. It actually might be one of the ones that's like in the book of Thomas, or one of the other less quoted, not canonical. But anyway, I think there's a moment where Jesus says, like, ask not where you will sleep or what you will eat tonight. Like the Lord provides for all. And regardless of your background or metaphysics or science or religion or whatever, that is the layer of trust and faith. When I was talking about my trust fall card, that allowed me to just say, you know what, I am breaking up with the people that feed me. Not because they're bad people necessarily, but just because I see that I could go the rest of my life, I could go another decade, another, however long, chasing that retirement or the golden handcuffs or whatever. And in the meantime, I've given away all of my creative energy, all of my own hopes and dreams and desires. And there's a magical kind of synchronicity that happens for people. It certainly happened for me, and this is one of the like main tenets of the artist's way, is that when you start to take those risks of saying no and really putting yourself out there for the things that you care about and the things that you love, there is this synchronicity where you start finding the other people that think like you do, that are interested in similar things, and new opportunities arise, like out of the woodwork. I have a friend, he's actually one of the people that I was consulting with, who I broke up with, not because I didn't love this person, but just because I could see where my energy was kind of draining into these short-term money gain, but long-term wheel spinnings. But anyway, my friend Derek has this saying, I'm sure he got it from somewhere, but it's just that people call him lucky, but what he has always done is just spread out the surface area where luck can happen. And if, I'll speak for myself. When I was being the entrepreneur for a decade, and I was kind of in the same market, I was in the same group of people, and it was great. I mean, I enjoyed parts of it. There's a reason why we kept getting opportunities in the markets that we went into. It's because we were there, and we ultimately didn't actually want to be in there. So how could we have spread out that surface area to be in domains where we actually wanted to be? And that's sort of the concept here, that I'm here in this art studio, and that happened because I started to take these little steps towards being an artist, and it required kind of declaring that my time is sacred, that it is valuable, and even if other people can't put a money value on it, I can put a value on how I feel if I'm in a state of flow or if I'm in a state of perpetual contraction. And problem solving. Like, I think that's a really interesting canary in the coal mine, is when we get into those moments in our lives where it feels like a lot of problem solving needs to be done, like list making and action steps to solve a creative problem. I think at this point, from just the experience that I've had, that problems, I feel like I'm channeling Leah Pearlman now, a problem is itself an experience of resistance to something. And when we feel that experience and we name it a problem and we set about trying to fix it or solve it, what we end up doing is short-circuiting the process of truly listening. Just like this painting, just like that curiosity that I keep talking about, that almost childlike curiosity of like, what is being felt when this, quote, problem situation arises, and I feel moved to action. I feel moved to make lists, or, I need to tell so-and-so this, I need to maybe quit my job, or, get a different house, or I don't know, whatever the kind of material fix seems to be. That getting curious about the data that's inside the problem or the feeling of a problem can sometimes be way more valuable than just trying to push it away and to kill that resistance in the bud. And that what happened for me a lot, gosh, I can remember when I was in this whole transitional phase from the company that I had started and was working at, and then I was just like down and out on unemployment, like in my garage every day, trading crypto, making videos, and just feeling the same feelings over and over and over. It's like, oh my gosh, I can't get out of this loop. I can't break through. All the lists in the world can't save me. Like, I know what I need to do, but I just can't get out of the brain state or the feeling. And I think it was this exercise of just saying, all right, problem, come here, come lay down, curl up, let's get cozy, let's see what feelings are coming up, and what are those attached to? Where have I felt them before? I found that 99 times out of 100, the feeling that I had was like this little surface. I don't know if I can mimic this with my hands. It was like this surface experience that same set of feelings would happen over here and over here and over here. Like this feeling of gut-wrenching, sick to my stomach when I had to like share in a group. Like really share myself was the same feeling that I had when I felt that I needed to be more intimate and open with my partner. was the same feeling that I had when I felt like I was holding back who I was for the benefit of my kids or being liked or whatever. And so like all of these different surface problems actually had, just like the fingers on my hand, like they went back to this deeper root. And it took the willingness to sit uncomfortably in that problem space long enough to start identifying those commonalities. And then I was able to address the roots, not just the outer experience. So like, oh, I need to quit my job, then I'd feel better. So you quit your job, lo and behold, all the problems are the same, there's just new ones. You know, those feelings that we've had since childhood or whatever, like they're following us around because we keep creating them, because we're getting some sort of payoff. And yeah, I'm also in this moment just kind of welcoming that when I get on these painting and talking kicks, like it's flowing almost like the paint. And there's some areas like this one that I'm not as stoked on as maybe another one. Like I really like this kind of yellow thing, but in the end, like it's all that same flow. And I am going to, as I've been doing, just trust it. Trust that it's coming from somewhere, that it's coming from me, and a me that might be even more tuned in to what needs to be said or done than any kind of ego that might be really concerned about, you know, if people are watching, if they're liking it, and how many people are panicked and hitting that unsubscribe button as fast as they can, or whatever imagined stories I might have that like the outcome of me rambling, or the outcome of me making a bad piece of art, or saying something stupid, or, you know, taking a risk and telling someone that I want more from them or more experiences with them, that, you know, that rejection would just be crippling. It's that same kind of flow of trusting myself, and especially with the practice of saying no or at least getting clear on highest excitement. And there's nothing I would rather be doing right now. Sincerely and truly, there's nothing I would rather be doing right now than watching this black ink go across this paper and hearing my mouth run. Like, I think Alan Watts said this, that he wasn't ever really showing up for the benefit of other people. He was just a person that talked. And if you like to listen to someone talk, then by all means tune in, and if not, then that's great. But there's no reason for this. It's just this is what I appear to be in this time in life, and then the turning on of the camera is just the willingness to be that unapologetically, even if people don't like it. And I think at some point, that's the other thing, like it's just kind of clearing. Like I don't want to keep coming on the live streams and like hitting this point about, you know, people unsubscribing and just what that actually feels like to kind of be going in the opposite direction, like choosing to go in the opposite direction of whittling down to those who really resonate, versus the like building up that we're all kind of taught is, oh, you got to grow your YouTube channel, you got to grow your audience, and then you can, you know, find all these ways to monetize and yada yada. And it's like, yeah, but that was ripping my guts out. Like that was not highest excitement. That left me feeling exposed in ways that maybe a prostitute might feel. Like if it's not a reciprocal relationship. So I'm going to zoom this out so we can kind of get like a full feel of what we're making. This has all just been a discovery. There was no intention here. There was maybe just an idea of color or yeah, anyone who's just joining now, we've been painting, we've been chatting. I've been sharing these things that for me lately have been huge, huge, huge unblockers for stepping into the life that I actually want to live versus wasting so much energy trying to make people like me or make people happy or keep everything copacetic. Here's another example of this is that my wife and I, my partner and I, we have rarely fought in our almost 20 years of being together. That for the first part of our relationship, for years and years and years, decades, we were just so good at like diffusing or maybe this might even be me, just like when I felt big emotions, I would just run away because I didn't want to say a bad thing. I didn't want to, like, I just wanted to go feel those things on my own so that when I was ready to talk, I had some sense of like what I actually wanted or meant. It's that checklist mentality. And now I'm finding that, man, those patterns are the most soul sucking when I'm like, it's the silent treatment or the like, like I'm not sure what I feel and I don't want to say anything that's going to hurt your feelings. So I'm just going to like stew and go away and go do my own things. That this has happened a couple times now lately. Like when we just fight, like fight, and sometimes physically like wrestle, but call each other. I don't know. I'm not proposing domestic violence or anything like that, but I'm saying like we were so locked up because we thought that like what we would say would hurt the other person. And now when I see Kayla like really laying into me and like, calling me out for stuff, whatever, like I can agree or disagree or whatever, but just that emotion and that like realness like gets us through that pattern so much quicker than the containment and the constant, I don't know, I guess it's called, in attachment theory, it's called, I forget what it's called. It's whatever I am. Not evasive, it's like, I forget what it's called, but avoidant, that's what it is, avoidant. So, when conflict arises, I would just avoid it like the plague. I would just, find my own places to feel it. I'd go on hikes, I'd go out with the dog, I'd, do everything except face the real feelings. And yeah, that kind of all plays into this too. So I'm going to kind of put the last little strokes on here. And with that, I'm going to kind of just mention this last funny little phenomenon that I think about this a lot. I ask this a lot, like when is it done? So clearly we've shown up here, we've made something, and I could go on and on and on forever, but when is it done? And I think that also comes down to a trusting of the process unfolding. And I've tried to just align myself with that intuition that maybe not everything is equal. It's not balanced. Like there's a lot more areas that I see that I could do more. But it's just also that willingness to say, you know what? That's it. This is what I made. There could be a million other ways that it could have gone, or things that I could change, or et cetera, et cetera. But, it's done. And similarly, I think with this podcast, enough has been said, at least in this flow. So I'm gonna just put this on pause over here, and I'm gonna see if anyone has any comments here. So Questing says, so much of my life's effort was misdirected. No more. Now I'm sailing the world and following my dreams. Hell yeah, Questing. Good for you. If you're still there and you're still in the chat, what was your life like before, and what happened that made you change it? Where did that energy go? I'm just reading some other comments. Of course, we've got like the win Bitcoin all-time high. And I think that, I probably will make some more crypto videos, especially with guests. At this point, there's just so many people that know more than me and are following it more closely that it would be a disservice to show up and just like ramble on, but bringing in people that actually have a finger on the pulse and have ideas that I agree with could be an interesting kind of collaboration. But yeah, you know what? I think I'm just gonna call it what it is. This is done. Here is the kind of the art that represents this particular line of thought, and yeah, I don't know. It's probably about an hour that I've been recording, and it is unfortunate, I guess, that if you jumped in at the middle, there's a lot in the beginning that kind of set up what we were actually talking about, what we did. And so it's kind of like this painting, you know. Now, if you got to attend the making of it, you got to have all these extra little insights and details. And then if you just come later and see it, it gives you the impression that it does. And similarly with the YouTube video that will now get, you know, there's about 463 views so far of the live stream. It'll probably get to 1,000 or so people that will just tune in and watch from the beginning and kind of get the painting as it is. You know, the YouTube itself was this object that was created in the same kind of flow state that we made both our automatic drawing and the painting that arose. I'll also say, if anybody is interested in this painting, if you made it this far, made it to the end, please follow me on Instagram at thinair, THINAYR. That's a great place to just say hi, see my art. There's a lot more cool stuff like this and very different. And then Facebook, you can find me at Ryan Stover or Ryan Stover Art LLC. But that's a great place if you are interested in, you know, someone is going to own this painting. Could be you. Yeah, that's kind of the intention here as well, is that I just hung a painting in a big city art show, and it had a price tag on it that was way higher than anything that I've done so far. And one of the things that I'm excited to talk about in future streams is the other part that I've been rewiring is my money limitations, biases, projections. That whole side of the house has had to be examined and cleaned out and replumbed for me to go full-time as an artist. And that's really interesting, and I think it ties in with investing and crypto and all that stuff too. So maybe a little teaser for the next stream. Trying to do these Tuesdays and Thursdays. And for those of you that have stuck on till the end, you are truly my people. I truly value you, and I truly hope for you the best, and that similarly, whatever energy it is that you are putting into the world, that you get the confidence and faith to just do that, make a mess, and let everything else sort itself out. That's the only way we're going to make it, is if we get really real about who we are, what we want, and go for it. And we'll find our people. All right, well, I'm going to hit the button, but thank you all, and until next time, cheers. Fade to black.